Perfect. So while people are joining, once again, thank you for joining this session, Nanomaterials session. My name is Madina. I'm from Barilan University, and today I'm your session chair. So just again, a quick reminder, the ones who will be presenting today, you have 7 minutes of flash talk and 3 minutes for discussion. So please don't exceed 7 minutes of talk. And our first presenter is Lucas Luciano from Ben Gurion University, right? Yes. So yeah. Good. And we can start in 2 minutes. We will wait for people to join us, and the stage is yours.
Thank you very much. So please just let me know when I can start.
Sure. Our session starts in 2 minutes. We will just wait and I'll let you know.
Okay.
Okay, I see here Jyoti. Jyoti, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Good. So we just changed the order. So the first presenter is Lucas, and next you can present the next one. Is it okay? Perfect. So Lucas, you can start. Go ahead, please.
Well, thank you very much. Today I'm going to talk about dispersions of graphene in aqueous solutions using a clay-assisted method that we developed, which basically breaks the dispersion limitation of conventional dispersion methods. This work was supervised by Professor Enrique. So a couple of words on graphene. It's a very interesting material. It's a 2D allotrope of carbon, in which these carbon atoms are arranged in an hexagonal array of sp2 hybridization. And the reason for which, or one of the reasons for which it's a very interesting material, is because it possesses quite a few interesting properties. For example, it possesses both high thermal and electrical conductivity, along with high mechanical properties, and it's virtually impermeable to any gas. So it's a really interesting material for diverse applications. However, many applications requires the dispersion of graphene, sometimes in the final process, sometimes in the middle, in aqueous media. And the main problem in here is that graphene is highly hydrophobic, and we want to insert it into a highly hydrophilic medium. So there are a lot of work being done on the past 20 years on dispersion of graphene in aqueous media. The more common ones are either chemical treatment of the surface. We have the graphene over here, and we oxidize it to obtain graphene oxide, in which you see all these hydroxylics and carboxylic groups, which are hydrophilic. And we can also partially reduce them. So we change the surface energy and they're more dispersible in water. And the other very famous method is by using surfactants. So we have here surfactants which have a hydrophilic and hydrophobic part. The hydrophobic part adheres on the surface of the graphene, while the hydrophilic part is towards the water. It stabilizes it within the dispersion and also prevents the reaggregation due to Van der Waals. It prevents its reaggregation due to the steric hindrance between these groups. However, these two methods possess quite a lot of problems. In the chemical way of dispersion, all these carboxylic groups are also damaging the sp2 network on the carbons, on the graphene, sorry, and therefore it reduces its intrinsic properties. Also, if we reduce those carboxylic and hydroxylic groups, we still obtain breakage of the sp2 bondage. So meaning that if we have very high thermal conductivity, eventually we will result with mediocre particle in that sense. On the other way around, if we talk about the surfactant assisted method, we usually obtain both low concentrations, usually below 0.2 weight%, and also small or low lateral sizes. You can see in the TEM micrograph over here, it's usually below 1 micron. And a lot of applications, such as composite materials, requires high lateral size graphene to obtain the maximum improvement. Therefore, a new dispersion method must be designed that at the same time provides us graphene with low defect density, high lateral size, and high concentration. So the method that we propose uses Sepiolite. Sepiolite is a fibrous clay mineral, as you can see in the TM over here, in which when Sepiolite is dispersed in water, it's negatively charged and induces a rheological phase change within the solution from a liquid behavior to a viscoelastic material, meaning it possesses both solid and liquid-like properties. We can actually measure how solid-like or liquid-like the material is by doing rheology experiments. In here, you have the G prime and the G double prime. The G prime is the viscous modulus, and the G double prime is the elastic modulus is the G prime, and the viscous modulus is the G double prime, as a function of the Sepiolite concentration in water. And we can see that at very low concentrations, we have the G double prime on top of the G prime, meaning the material behaves as a viscoelastic liquid. And upon a certain concentration, we have an inversion of this behavior in which the G prime is on top of the G double prime, and we obtain the viscoelastic solid. Moreover, this viscoelastic solid is a very interesting phase, because when Sepiolite is applied, we also obtain a kinetically arrested phase, meaning that these particles we have a bunch of them on the dispersion, they can no longer move, and they're kinetically arrested. So our main master plan was, let's say, what would happen if we can take this kinetically arrested phase and introduce our graphene inside of it, basically trapping the material within the kinetically arrested phase. So long story short, the answer is we can do that. If we look at the TM micrograph over here, we have the graphene and we have the Sepiolite strands all over the place. And if we look closely, the lateral size of our trapped graphene is 5 microns in size, which is basically an order of magnitude higher than what we obtain by conventional dispersion methods. Because we are working on dry TM, we wanted to make sure that this really represents the behavior in liquid dispersion. So we did also cryo TEM over here, and you can see basically the same image. Now, due to the lack of time, I won't talk about all the optimization process, but we found that the GMP to Sepiolite ratio, the optimal GMP to Sepiolite ratio is 2 to 5. And you can see here the initial GMP concentration and the Sepiolite concentration. And we can see that eventually, as we increase the initial GMP concentration, the dispersed GMP concentration is increased as well, up to 1 weight% in dispersion, which is an order of magnitude higher than what is usually obtained by surfactant-assisted dispersions. So to conclude this presentation, GMP was successfully dispersed through a trapping mechanism that was never before seen in the literature, obtaining concentrations of up to 1 weight% and large lateral size, which is an order of magnitude higher. And this is a general dispersion method for large size particles due to the lack of specific interactions that is beyond excluded volume. So I want to thank you all for listening to this presentation, and also my professor, Professor Ran Regev, and Professor Ifan Shmuel from the KTH University in Sweden.
Thank you, Lucas. Wonderful talk. It was very interesting. Does somebody have questions? Okay, so I have actually one question for you. I know from the literature, surfactants, they negatively influence on the final electrical properties, let's say, of the graphene or GO or RGO. So, like, did you check it or the properties, or you are washing out this, like how it works?
So yeah, so basically the main difference between surfactant and this method is that surfactants are usually adhered on the surface of the graphene, meaning that it sort of creates some junctions of transfer properties. But at the same time, for example, I have here in here, what we can see is that we actually measured quite a few different sizes of graphene, ranging from 5 microns up to 25 microns, and measure the thermal conductivity. You know, the intrinsic thermal conductivity of the graphene is very high. And also it is reported that as the larger the particle size, we obtain high thermal conductivity. In all of 3 of these dispersions, doesn't matter which size, we obtain an improvement in the enhancement of thermal conductivity in solutions, while at the same time Sepiolite is thermally isolating. So although we have the Sepiolite within the dispersion, at the same time we can still harness the excellent properties that graphene has.
Okay, thank you for your answer. Does somebody have any other questions? Okay. Yes, sure. Maxime, go ahead.
Lucas, can you go back to the slide where you showed the crossover between G prime and G double prime?
Yes.
So could you comment to what frequency it was done? Because there are some frequencies.
Yeah, of course. So first of all, due to the lack of time, I couldn't show the whole process. But when we do a scan over all the frequencies, we did it on 1 hertz. Of course, the frequency at which the measurements are made affects the behavior and also the values. So we had to pick one just to show it. At the same time, when we also scan various shear rates, we do it in the linear regime, and we don't see very huge amount of difference as the shear goes up. It's almost independent of frequency. So what we said is we take 1 hertz and we compare all of them at 1 hertz.
Thank you.
Oh, okay, thank you once again. So we are moving forward.
Thank you very much for listening.
Thank you. So our next speaker is Dr. Jyoti. I'm making you co-host.
Yes.
So can you share the screen?
Yes. Thank you.
1 second. Okay. Can you make it full screen?
Yes.
Awesome. So our next speaker is Dr. Jyoti Jaiswal from Rajiv Gandhi University. So you are actually today our international representative from India. So please go ahead.
Yeah, okay. So good afternoon to all of you. I'm Dr. Jyoti Jaiswal. I'm going to present basic synthesis of MH2 thin films by DC sputtering and their microstructural, optical, and electrical properties. So these are the outline of the presentation. We just in the start introduce MOS2 and then optimize how to optimize the deposition parameter, and then characterize it by the microstructural, optical, and electrical properties, and then it deposited on the different substrate for wide applications. So what is MOS2? MOS2 is basically nothing. It is a transition metal chalcogenide material, and it is a 2D material like a graphene. And this is the basically here the layer by layer structure. So this MO and S. So MS2 are hexagonally packed in layers and bonding between. So it shows the basically direct band gap nature when it is a monolayer, but it is in a bulk material. So it shows a 1.2 indirect band gap material. And there are huge applications MOS2. You can see that sensors, solar cells, electronics, optoelectronics, lubricant. So the synthesis of MOS2 thin films, a good quality thin film, is very important. So here we study how to optimize a very good thin films. So common synthesis technique to prepare the MOS2 films is basically either exfoliation method, either chemical vapor deposition, and somewhat in very few literature only studied the physical vapor deposition techniques. So most of the literature is available only on the explosive method and the chemical vapor deposition. But there is a disadvantage of this method. This exfoliation method has a basically you can say the very poor adhesion of the film, and chemical vapor deposition requires a very high temperature. So we report how to solve this problem to synthesize the MOS2 thin films. So here these are the physical vapor deposition technique, and among that, sputtering is the most widely technique used because it has can be easily optimized parameter for fabricating large area continuous film. And what is the challenges here? Again, the temperature stability, I already told that. So what here is the advantage of sputtering: single step process, low temperature growth, controlled thickness. We can just achieve 2 to 3 nanometer to micrometer thickness, and high purity because it is taken in the vacuum, and also good film homogeneity and adhesion, and large area growth, reproducibility, and cost effective. So these are the advantages of these sputtering technique. So here that's why I focus on the synthesis of the MOS2 thin films. So these are the chamber we used for the synthesis of the MOS2 thin films, and these are the targets here. So we just optimize the sputtering condition and grown vertically aligned MOS2 thin films, and then characterize it by the number of characterization: XRD, SAM, DAM, XPS, and optical properties and then electrical properties. So these are the basically sputtering parameters, where first I vary the working pressure, and then I vary the deposition power, and then I vary the substrate temperature to optimize to basically achieve the nanocrystalline film. And after optimizing, I prepare a different thickness of MOS2 films by varying the deposition time. So here basically here you see at a different deposition pressure I first varied, and then deposition power, and then deposition temperature, and then again after optimization I prepare a different thickness of the MOS2 films. So I found that here 5 millitorr is the best parameter because here you see crystallinity is high, and in case of the power, the 45 is better because here crystallinity is high as compared to these two, and in case of the temperature, 300 is the best quality sample. So here these parameters will be optimized, and after optimizing we prepare at these parameters the different thickness by varying the deposition time, and we found that it is nanocrystalline, and these are the phase in hexagonal phase, and no diffraction peaks, indicating that it is either very small nanoparticles, either it is the amorphous. So we will confirm later. And also I basically study the XPS and the Raman spectroscopy. So by XPS and Raman spectroscopy, we confirm that our deposited MOS2 thin films is highly pure, because here it is confirmed by the XPS, MO, and S, but there is a little bit oxidation on the surface there because here you see MO6 plus. So but it's a very thin layer of just oxidation due to the ambient condition. And this is the Raman spectroscopy, which confirmed again it is the hexagonal phase. So, and this is the microscopic structural properties, and it is analyzed by the SAM, and which confirm the basically you can see how the grain size will be changed by increasing the thickness, and you can see the growth will be vertical, because here you can see separately grain, here also you can see that. So that's why we call this is the vertically aligned thin film, and it is when you increase the thickness, the morphology will be not changed, only thickness will be increased after a particular thickness. After a particular you can say after 100 nanometer. And these are the XRR because the film is very low at for few seconds. So that's why we can't do the cross section. So that's why I perform the XRR to know the thickness. So for 1 second, the thickness is 1 nanometer, and for the 5 seconds, the thickness is around 3 nanometer, and for the 10 seconds, the thickness is around 8 nanometer. So again, I do the basically HRTM, so which confirm the layer. Here is the layer, the MOS2 layers. So by increasing the, here you can see that by when we increase the thickness, the number of layer will be increased. And also you see the diffraction pattern, SAD patterns, which confirm that. So the film is basically highly restricted. So here is the, we propose the growth mechanism. So first there is absorption of the substrate here from the TAM analysis, and then there is a nucleation stage, and then this is the third stage, growth starts along with the nucleation, and then growth in vertical as well as horizontal direction. So we can say that they are vertically aligned, and then at the fifth stage there is growth only in number of layers. And again, we will study the spectroscopy ellipsometry instrument. So here from this technique, we can evaluate the optical and dielectric behavior of any samples. So here are for the MOS2 thin films, we determine the optical properties by using, by fitting the spectroscopy ellipsometry data. So these are the experimental data and the fitted data at the different incidence angle. So these are the fitting parameters while we use during the fitting, and we obtain the these optical and optical properties. So here you see the on the y-axis the refractive.
Jyoti, sorry, you're running out of the time. Can you move to the conclusion?
Yeah. So this is optical properties, and this is the electrical properties, and this is the film large area growth, and again this is deposited on the various substrates. Thank you. Sorry. Yeah.
That's okay. Thank you. So thank you. It's very interesting topic. So is there any questions? So I have actually one question for you. I saw in the table in the beginning, you show the parameters that you were playing with, like temperature and power, etc. And I saw the substrates, and I just want to ask, did you check all these substrates, like it was written glass, silicon, exactly, quartz, ITO?
Yes, I check on the substrate. Here is the SAM analysis of the that
so
substrate.
what is the best substrate where molysulfide is adhering? Here I see.
Yes, yeah, here you see glass, ITO, quartz, SiC, silicon, and zirconium oxide, sapphire. I use different type of substrate for the different applications.
Okay, good. Thank you.
Okay, welcome.
So, any questions? So, thank you once again, and we are moving to our next presenter. Thank you. Our next presenter is Gal. Can you share the screen? I made you before the co-host. Yes, good. Can you make it full screen? Yes, awesome. So our next presenter is Gal Finkelstein from Tel Aviv University. So Gal, please go ahead.
Hi, okay. So hi everyone. Today I will present my PhD thesis, which focuses on energy harvesting by piezoelectric peptides for biocompatible power solution. It is done under the supervision of Professor Gazit. So first I would like to start with a short introduction about the piezoelectric effect. So the piezoelectric effect is described as the conversion of mechanical energy into electrical energy and vice versa. If mechanical stress is applied on a piezoelectric material, electric charge will be accumulated. This is considered as the direct effect. Whether a piezoelectric material is subjected to electric field, strain will be developed, and this will be referred to as the indirect piezoelectric effect, as you can see here in the video. The piezoelectric materials and applications based on the piezoelectric effect are all around us in our daily used applications and devices. It can be used as in actuators, sensors, and energy harvesting. Currently, the field of piezoelectric materials is dominated by lead-based piezoelectric ceramic materials such as PZT. However, although showing very strong piezoelectric response, PZT is toxic and entirely non-biocompatible, emerging the need for alternative piezoelectric materials with strong piezoelectric performance, especially in the field of bio applications. So we aim to develop a biocompatible piezoelectric power solutions using bio-inspired peptide-based materials that can utilize the abundant mechanical energy stored in our bodies, such as body motions, whether movement of internal organs, in order to generate electric power. So ultimately, it can serve as an autonomic self-powered power supply charged by the body itself. Recently, our group published a paper showing remarkable piezoelectric response for a diphenylamine peptide derivative called BOC-Dip-Dip. Piezoelectric biological materials have attracted significant attention in recent years as promising alternatives for currently used toxic piezoelectric materials owing to their piezoelectricity and biocompatibility as well. Related to these materials, the piezoelectric effect is measured at the nanoscale for a single crystal using piezoforce microscopy. And as you can see here, the piezoelectric response is very high compared to inorganic, whether organic materials. BOC-Dip-Dip, as well as other peptides, can undergo self-assembly to form various ordered structures by self-assembly. It is a spontaneous process describing the formation of supramolecular ordered structure due to non-covalent interaction of the molecules themselves. And it possesses an elegant way to form nanostructures by mild conditions and environmentally friendly manner. However, one of the major challenges is the ability to govern the self-assembly of peptides into large, well-ordered functional units in a coordinate fashion. So the piezoelectric effect can be expressed macroscopically. To do so, we have established a deposition method to obtain structural alignment of BOC-Dip-Dip. We've studied the effect of various environment conditions to find the optimal conditions to structure for the formation of structural alignment. And as you can see here, this is the deposition method that we have developed. So the first step is drop cast under inert condition to form a transparent amorphous layer. And the second step includes exposure to high humidity in order to form a structure alignment. So the powder XRD indicates the amorphous layer and the crystallinity of the layer upon exposure to high humidity. And in addition, in order to evaluate the macroscopic piezoelectric effect of our deposited layer, we've established an in-house measurement system to evaluate the piezoelectric effect. Here you can see a scheme of the measurement system operation and a photo of the actual system. I want to go quickly over the components of the system. But first, the system is based on the direct piezoelectric effect, meaning that we apply force on a sample, then we measure the generated voltage. So for the components, we have an actuator, which is responsible for force application on the sample. The force is measured by a force sensor, and the generated voltage is measured by an oscilloscope. All the data is combined and analyzed together. To verify the measurement system, we used a thin film with known, a piezoelectric PVDF, known reference with known piezoelectric value. So here you can see the force that was applied on the sample measured by the force sensor. We used a step function, and here you can see the voltage that was generated. Combining these two together, the piezoelectric response can be described by the linear graph of the force of the generated voltage in response to force application. Two important parameters here are the slope and the linearity of the graph, which shows good piezoelectric response. So we've measured our deposited peptide layer. We evaluated it by our measurement system. And as you can see here, according to the slope and other parameters, we calculated the piezoelectric coefficients of the BOC-Dip-Dip. And as you can see here, it is very similar to the reference sample. But still, it did not fulfill its fully potential measured by piezo force microscopy. To conclude, we've developed a reliable measurement system for macroscopic piezoelectric evaluation. We were able to form the deposition method for a line peptide array, and significant piezoelectric response was obtained by the active layer. I want to thank my group, and especially Professor Elgazit, and for you for paying attention.
Thank you, Gal. It was really interesting topic. Thank you. Does somebody have questions? No questions?
I can ask.
Yes, please, Maxim, go ahead.
Thank you, Gal. Gal, can you show again the peptide you used? And could you say that if you use the more polar or less polar peptide, do you expect to see any differences?
So do you see the screen? Do you see the screen?
Yes.
Okay. So I don't have a scheme of the chemical molecule, but it is very aromatic. These are two BOC combined to a diphenylalanine. It's very aromatic molecules, and it is a polar. Again, your question, I'm sorry.
So do you expect if you would use a more polar molecule, do you expect it to be higher, or what can you change to make the piezo coefficient higher, or how can you control the piezo coefficient?
Okay, so it's a very good question, and the piezoelectric coefficient of these molecules was found because we wanted to increase the aromaticity of phenylalanine. This is how it started. And by that, we found that if we increase the aromaticity, we could form ultra dense. So the density of the structure formation was higher, and this is what increased the piezoelectricity.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. If somebody has more questions, we still have time. If not, then thank you once again, Gal. It was wonderful talk. And thank you, Lucas. Thank you, Jyoti, as well. So right now we are concluding our session. And just as a quick reminder, we have a break, and then we have a plenary session talk with Professor Yuri Gagotsi from Drexel University. And I really encourage you all to join the Zoom. Thank you once again. Bye.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.